Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Build Your Copywriting Business podcast. Hello, friends.
Hello,
Hi.
hello.
Hello. As always, I am joined by my fabulous co-host, Kate Sittars. Hello, Kate.
Hello, hello.
Hello. And today we have the pleasure of being joined again by the also fabulous copywriter and CCA student, Charlotte Ellis. Hello, Charlotte. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for having me again.
It's entirely our pleasure. Kate, we're saying again, obviously. So if any of you are like, what is this again? We're going to put a link to Charlotte's original episode in the show notes. So if you want to listen to that first or listen to it afterwards, the order doesn't matter. We'll give you a quick update. But one of the things that we really want to talk about today, of course, we'll give a little overview of how you got into copywriting. But we want to kind of talk about the directions that a copywriting career can take you. And I think, Charlotte, your story is a really good example of that. But before we get into that, can you give us just a kind of a nugget, a bite-sized look at how you got into copywriting? Your story was.
Yeah, sure. So I started as a teacher. So I had about a 10-year teaching degree. I did some teaching overseas, like teaching English and things. And then I was teaching preschool for a couple of years. And then I kind of got to the point where I was wondering what next, like looking for a new challenge and stumbled into copywriting. So after doing the CCA, so I joined in, I think, April 2022. Went through the program, started freelancing, and I did about a year of freelancing before getting hired as a copywriter for an agency. So I've been at this agency since August 2023.
And it's still blowing my mind because we last spoke with Charlotte in November of 2022 and it's now January 2025. It's amazing what's happened in that time. And I still don't understand how that's.
I wish I had been recording because you listening, you're not even, or watching, you're not even getting the full effect of Kate.
No.
Kate's having a breakdown.
There was explosions going off. And yes, I feel like I just need to go lie down, take a nap, and wake up in 2030. I don't know, because that's how it feels.
Put your feet up for a while.
Yeah.
Just recover.
Yeah.
But so much has happened, more than I even realized.
Yes. Okay, deep breaths, Kate. Deep breaths. You can do this. You're a champion. And we can still explore this with you, Kate. But to get back to Charlotte and her story.
I want to explore what's happened over the 2 years. I think I'm most intrigued to have you dig into that process of, you were freelancing for a year and kind of, I know that when we last spoke with you, you were, thrilled with that. You had moved on, transitioned out of teaching. And yeah, what happened that made you explore the full-time role and within agency in particular and all of that sort of thing?
Yeah. So I was freelancing and I was working a lot with like solopreneurs and coaches, consultants, people who were kind of a one-man band, and they were coming to me for advice on how to perfect their messaging and get more clients and all that. And I really, really loved working with those clients. But I think just after freelancing for a while, I realized that they wanted help with not just actually producing the copy, but the strategy behind it. Where should that copy go? Who should, what's their main message? What sets them apart from other people? Like all that other stuff that you need to be able to produce good copy for them. And I realized I actually, although I do have some marketing experience just from going through my own copywriting journey, I wanted to be able to offer them more confidently more than what I currently could. That was one of the main reasons, is I wanted to fill in a lot of my knowledge gaps and just expand my understanding of the overall marketing journey and how to help those clients. And then the second thing was I realized that in the past, I've been in jobs where I was the most experienced person most of the time. And I always kind of longed to learn from someone who was farther down from me. And I kind of went, hey, I'm really a beginner still. How do I put myself in a position where I can learn from other people who've been doing this for 10 years, 20 years? Because I think sometimes when you get feedback from a client, they'll either go, yeah, I love it, this is great, or I don't like it. But that's not the most helpful feedback because they don't really know what good copy looks like anyway. I think I just really craved being with other people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So how did you end up in the role that you're in now, or what was that pathway?
So around the middle of 2023, I started just kind of exploring that idea of like, what would it look like to go for a full-time position? Because I went into freelancing going like, oh, I'll never work for anyone again. Like I live in freedom. And then I kind of fell out of love with it just because of those reasons that I just described. I felt like I wanted more growth and to be around other people too. I found it kind of isolating, like working from home, just being on my own, being a team of one. I wanted to be able to bounce ideas off of other people. And so I just started kind of randomly applying for jobs, but I was not sold on the idea of going to work for someone else. It was very much a like, let's just like see what's out there, what's the worst that could happen. And then I got invited for an interview at this agency, which it's been around 5 years as of October. So back then it was like maybe 3.5 years old. And so very much a startup environment. So, I've been doing copy for a little over a year at that point, but relatively speaking, I was still, a beginner. But I think that made them open to hiring me because they could see my experience from my other roles would make me valuable here. But even when I took the job, I was like, I'll do it for a year. Like, if I hate it, I'll just quit. Like, nothing to lose really. And I kept on some of my freelance clients for the first couple of months as a safety net because I was like, I may hate it in the first 2 months. And then at least I know I can always go back to freelancing. That was always my mindset, like we'll try it out, see how it goes. Seemed like a good opportunity. The worst that happens is it's a learning experience. The best that happens is I love it and it opens all these doors for me that I never knew would be possible. So yeah, that was kind of how I went into it. And I'm still here. So
yes. So it worked out. Yeah.
It worked out.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that's a really smart way to go into it, saying, all right, I'm going to give this a shot, but I also, if I don't want to stay here, I don't have to stay here.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, when they especially when they get into copywriting, but maybe just kind of freelancing in general, they think, ooh, okay, freelancing is it. I want that complete and total freedom. I will never work for anybody else again, like you said.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who kind of has that in their head right now? Hey there, it's Nikki. I wanted to take a very quick minute to make sure that you knew about our free on-demand copywriting training. Now, whether you are brand new to copywriting or you've been doing it for a while, but you just can't seem to hit those income goals, this training is for you. You are going to learn the 3 secrets to landing freelance copywriting work without relying on frustrating job bidding sites like Upwork or Fiverr, or without cold calling strangers. And if you've watched any of the student success stories on this channel, and if you haven't yet, check them out. This is the exact same training that they all started with. And I mean students like Kate K, who is making 6 figures working part-time and retired her husband to help her build her business. Students like Stuart, who replaced his full-time salary, which was a good one, with his freelance income and then some. Stacy, who hit 6 figures in her first 6 months as a freelance copywriter, and Ashley, who landed the in-house copywriting job of her dreams. They all started with this free training, and you can start with this free training too. So sign up right now at freecopywritingtraining.com.
I think you should stay open. Like, I think freelancing does have so many benefits. And for a lot of people, like, it fits so well. Like, as a mom, like, I love the flexibility. It was great. But I think just keeping an open mind to, like, if there are other good opportunities out there, then there's nothing wrong with changing your mind. I think it can sometimes be like, oh, I've said this thing that I'm always going to freelance, or I've told everyone that I'm freelancing now, and I keep talking about how great it is, but internally I'm like not quite sure, or I'm doubting, or what if I change my mind? Like, doesn't matter. You can change your mind, and then you can change it back. Like, it's really fine.
I love that point. It's so funny because as you're saying it, I was like, oh yeah, I could see. Why do we care what anybody else thinks about what we do, about our career? And why do we always make the assumption that it's going to be a negative judgment, right? Like,
or that anyone's paying attention in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like half the time people are like, oh yeah, I forgot that you freelance, or oh, I forgot like that. And no one,
Yeah. I think like for a little bit at the beginning, I was like, oh, if I take this job, then people are going to think that like, oh, it was because I couldn't hack it as a freelancer, or I was like failing or something, like, I think it's just all those things that you tell yourself that no one's actually thinking. But
Yeah.
that was a barrier for me at first. Is like, oh, my family's going to think like, oh, guess that like freelancing thing didn't work out, or, like, and of course no one is going to think that. But yeah,
And
even
also
if
if
I
they
do, who
did,
cares?
yeah.
Yeah, right? Like,
Exactly. It's your time, it's your money, it's your energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's so funny.
So
Not I
funny,
don't want to
yeah.
belabor the point, but it's when we think about getting, or we often hear from students is, well, when I think about getting into freelance, or not often, but sometimes we hear from students,
Mhm.
when I think about going to freelance, I'm afraid of telling people that I'm going to freelance because I'm afraid they're going to think it's because I couldn't get a full-time job. But then the
Yeah.
other side of that
Yeah.
is, oh, I'm afraid to tell people that I'm leaving freelance to get a full-time job because they think it's when we always make the assumption that it's going to be something negative.
Yeah.
And it's and it n n first of all, again, who cares? But also, it could just as easily be like, "Hey, good for you, you're gonna give freelance a try," or, "Hey, good for you, you got a full-time job." But for whatever reason, our brains always default to the negative. People are
Yeah.
gonna judge me in a negative way.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing.
Mhm.
And did you hear anything? Did any actually all right, did you get any feedback on moving from freelance to full-time?
No, the only feedback I got was like, wow, congratulations. Like you've really like started your new career now, haven't you? Like
Mm,
that was kind of the only feedback that I got is like,
yeah.
um, wow, this really solidifies that like you're a fully fledged copywriter, so much so that other people recognize it enough to hire you.
And you're like, "Thank you," but actually
Yeah.
all of my other freelance clients hired me too, but but I appreciate it. Well, and I think, you've gone from freelance, you're in full-time. Do you anticipate potentially I mean, obviously, we're not saying if her employer is listening right now, we're not saying
She
immediately.
loves her job.
Yes, loves her job. But do you anticipate at any point in the future being interested in going back to freelancing again?
I'm open to it. Everything that I do, like, because I went into this job with the mindset of I want to learn as much as possible, I've always had that in the back of my mind is whatever skills I'm building now, I take with me wherever I go.
Yeah.
Um, so I can always like do freelancing later. I think like in the short to medium term, I'm enjoying the stability of having a job just because like I have a mortgage, I have 2 kids, like just knowing what's coming in every month is like, it gives me a lot of peace of mind that it was more like when I got out of freelancing, then I was like, oh, I actually feel like I can just focus on doing the work, whereas the getting the clients,
Yeah.
just my personality, I think,
Mhm.
because I'm the type of person that is a real hustler, it's hard when you're like, you feel like you could always be doing more. And so
Yeah.
it was really hard for me to enjoy my time away from work because my
Mhm.
mind was always going, but I should be doing this thing. But if I was doing this, then I could be making more money. And if I
Yeah.
don't do that, if I don't work today, then what does that look like in a couple of months when I don't have work coming in? I
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
I personally struggled with that.
Mhm.
And I think I didn't realize that until I was in this job. And then I was like, I can just focus on actually like learning, honing my craft, doing the work. Yeah. Just totally a personal thing. So I
Yeah.
think like, at least for now, I'm like not looking to freelancing, but I'm like in a different stage of life. Like maybe when my kids are a bit older and I have more flexibility, more time.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, and you mentioned stability, sometimes on the show we'll say, full-time jobs aren't quite as stable as people believe that they are. But what I want to say in this scenario, Charlotte, is that you have the real stability because you have a full-time
Yeah.
job, but you also have the skills to go out and find freelance clients anytime you need to. So,
Yeah.
worst
Yeah.
case scenario, if something goes wrong with this job, or you just decide like, oh no, I have a new manager now, I don't like it, I'm out of here. You
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
ability to do that and
Yeah.
you can pick up right where you left off with freelancing without missing a beat. So you have true stability because yes, you have a full-time job and you have that, but you also have the
Mhm.
skills that mean that you know how to get income no matter what. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And because I've gotten more experience in the last year and a half, I feel so much more confident than I did
Mhm.
before.
Yeah.
I, yeah, I think probably a lot of people would say that similar to me, like may struggle with imposter syndrome when you first start out. And I think like as much as it's like you want to be confident in the skills and the training that you have, like nothing beats the confidence you get just from experience over time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think now I feel a lot more like confident if I were to go back to freelancing because I have so much more experience under my belt now.
Hmm.
Yeah, makes complete sense. I'm curious if your mindset at all around kind of just career, job, all of that has changed in any way in the sense that, and maybe I'm projecting this, but I imagine as a teacher, you were kind of like, okay, like teaching is what I'm going to do. And
Yeah.
there it versus, yeah, just I guess speaking to the opportunities that you kind of have now.
Yeah, I think that I kind of saw teaching as like a very linear type
Yeah.
career where you pretty much get into it and you just like do it. Like there were limited opportunities to do something else. Like you can work in policy, I guess, or, kind of um, in a more like government role, I guess, in the education umbrella. But in general, I felt like it was limited. Whereas I feel like now where I am, copywriting is such a good stepping stone to do other kind of related um, roles in the industry. And because I've been exposed to all of that in working in an agency now, I feel like my eyes are open to all the different possibilities. And even within freelancing, like you see a lot of people start with copywriting and then they branch out and do more. There's just so many things that you can do once you have started with copywriting. You can take it a lot of different directions.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I really, you mentioned this earlier, but I want to go back and just underline it. The idea of you taking a job because you wanted to learn the skills, right? That
Yeah.
you're like, oh, okay, this is an opportunity for me to learn something and to add something new to my toolkit. And that's such a
Mhm.
great way to look at clients, to look at potential jobs, to look at heck, even to look at contract positions. Oh, I'm going to go
Yeah.
contract for this company for 6 months. And I'm going to learn this skill.
Yeah.
And I think that that's such a because I think sometimes we get so caught up in the I'm going to do the job and this job is I'm just going to make the money. But there's so much more open to us if we go into it with that ethos of looking to learn. And so I think that's really
Yeah.
fantastic.
I even came into this job thinking like maybe um, even if I don't like it, then I might freelance for them for this
Yeah.
agency instead. Or
Hmm.
now I have access to the network of people that are connected to this agency. Like you can expand your network as well.
Hmm.
Like there's so many different ways if you just start thinking about opportunities in that way, what you can um, glean from that versus just like you said, it not just a job. It's actually like you're expanding your network, expanding your skill set, potentially opening up different types of opportunities in the future too.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And I think too, sometimes we think about like, oh, I'm going to expand my network with the people who are in this office that I'm sitting with. But don't forget too that you just came into the job and, at some point, who knows you will leave, but everybody else in there is also doing the same thing, right? Maybe they'll stay here, maybe they'll go somewhere else,
Yeah.
and so every time that you expand your network with one person, then that person's network becomes your network. Like
Yeah.
personally, and Kate, I know you've had the same experience where someone you worked with maybe years ago on staff at a company reaches out to you later on. They're at a totally different company, but someone says, hey, we need a copywriter. They go, I worked with so-and-so. Well, I guess in this case, it would be Nikki, Charlotte, or Kate, but
Mhm.
back then, and then they reach out. It's every time you make a connection, it branches out exponentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like more than 50% of my works come probably via that exact scenario is
Yeah.
just people
Hmm.
moving on. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly, exactly, and I think that actually that's a good thing to remember for I know that pitching sometimes it is important. I think we all can agree on that. That's important. But the more that you grow your network,
Yeah.
the easier it's going to be to get referrals. And we all agree you never want to rely on referrals, but the bigger that network is, the more referrals you're going to have coming in to you. And a great way to build your network is to go be in an office with people. Again, maybe it's a full-time job, maybe it's a contract position, but it's so much easier for people to remember you and to send work to you when they have actually sat down with you and met with you or worked with you or whatever.
I was going to ask if you can
Yeah,
share
please.
a little bit of what's the day-to-day like there? What's life like at the agency? What kinds of projects are you working on? What can you tell us about them?
Um,
Mediums, clients, industries, all of it.
yeah.
Do you
So
have a
we're
do you have a keg? I feel like that's
not in the office,
I
but
was
it is a really cool like studio space. So we're an organic social media agency. So we help people build their business by organic content.
Mhm.
So our clients range from like real estate agents, solopreneurs, all the way up to some very large clients in New Zealand, and we're expanding to New York this year. Yeah, so we do like short form video, LinkedIn, ghostwriting, podcast production. So I'm the head of copy. So I have a team. Um, so I
Good for
oversee.
you.
Yeah.
Hey, way to bury the well, not so it's not the lead, but like
Yeah.
that's a big deal.
Toot that
Congratulations.
horn
Thank
for you.
you.
Yes.
Toot,
You've got a
Yeah.
team. You're the head of copy.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my team does all the LinkedIn ghostwriting for our clients. And then I also oversee all the show writing. So we do script writing for the short form videos because some of it's educational, but a lot of it is like, um, it's designed to make people want to actually interact with the brand because it's entertaining rather than
Mhm.
just like, this is us and this is what we do. It's kind of like skits, I guess you could say. We look at it like a TV show that runs on their organic socials. So in my team, we also do the script writing. And then the other project, my main project that I work on is our marketing daily email newsletter.
Mhm.
So we started that February last year, and we've been building it as it'll eventually be like a standalone business that will create revenue through like ad placement in the newsletter. So that's then a project that kind of got thrown to me like, hey, we want to do this thing. We want you to head it up and build it from scratch. And so that's been like the biggest thing that I've been working on for the last year.
That's cool. And talk about again learning new skills. Like, hey,
Exactly.
figure out how to build a newsletter and how to build that audience. Good for
Yeah.
you.
So
Yeah.
that's been like another kind of rabbit hole that I've gone down. So last year I did a course about building a newsletter business. And
Mhm.
then I've been doing a lot of research around that. And then I have a writer that writes the content and then I edit it. And so I've learned to like, how do you build an email list and how do you manage an email list and how do you like A/B test email subject lines and like, just all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it's been really interesting to learn about that specific part of marketing as
That's
well.
fun. That's so cool. Well,
Yeah.
and it's just interesting to the overlap that just as we were talking about building skills,
Yeah.
right? Your agency now does this content for some of the people who would have been your freelance clients before. And
Mhm.
should you ever decide not to or to step away from the agency, then you have all of these skills that you can bring to your individual freelance clients and
Right.
offer them and yes, social media and all of this, but then also newsletter building too.
Yeah.
I mean, it for me, it's so exciting. It's your career, and I'm
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
excited
Yeah.
for you because there's so many possibilities. So that's
Yeah.
really fantastic. Yes.
It is really cool. It's really like exciting and challenging to have the opportunity to do things like I think because it was still such a young company when I came on to, there's a lot of opportunity to build my role into what I wanted it to be. Because there wasn't any copywriter when I came on. And then it was like me and then like hiring people over the last year to join the team. It's been a really good experience to be able to ask like, how do I want this department to look and what do I put into place and what's the culture of this team that we're building? And yeah, all of that, like that really suits my interests. So that's like leadership has been another big skill that I've been
Yeah.
working on.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that amazing though? As
Also
you're
the
hiring writers and going like, oh, I was on the other side of this
Yeah.
not too long ago.
I was saying like
Uh-huh.
less than 3 years, right? So 2022 and yeah, we're coming
Way less than 3
Can you
years.
I'm
Yeah.
just going to like make you cuz I'm just like, wow. Like could you have thought in 2022 when you started this journey just like where you'd end up, I guess, right now?
Not at all. I thought I was going to freelance like forever, pretty much.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Should like I could have gone down that track. And who knows where I would be if I had done that
Mhm.
instead. Don't know.
It's
I
just
love it.
amazing. It's so cool to think of like, you do the thing and look where it
All the
puts you
different
someplace that you
directions.
can't even think about. Like if you start now with
Yeah.
whatever it is you want to do, you don't even know where you'll end up a year, 2
Yeah.
years down the line. It's so cool.
Yeah. It is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Your point earlier about being open to where things could
Mhm.
go. I think that's such
Yeah.
a really fantastic thing for everybody to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Like, let's see where this goes. Let's start moving in
Yeah.
directions that feel good. And because that was another thing too. At no point did you didn't take this job thinking, oh, I don't want to do this job. You took it because you were interested in it. But at the same
Yeah.
time too, you thought, all right, if I don't want to stay here, I can leave. So it's not like you didn't force anything.
Yeah.
You moved in a direction that felt like the right direction. That's awesome.
When you knew what you
Mm.
wanted to get out of it, which is really cool too, to like,
Yeah.
okay, this is what I want out of it. And if I'm not getting what I want out of it, see ya.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, first of all, even though you are not currently accepting freelance clients, if someone listens and they're like, "Oh, I just want to reach out to her, maybe, or maybe they just want to look at your website for when they can hire you later. How can
Stock
people
portfolio
find you?
information too.
Yes, exactly.
Right now I'm mostly just active on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
And then it would be really cool if people wanted to sign up for my newsletter because it's
Yeah.
all about what's happening in marketing right now. So we every single day send out content about like what other brands are doing, what's working on social media. We do case studies, breakdowns, and yeah, so I think that would probably be pretty valuable for a lot of the CCA students who
Definitely.
are dipping their
Absolutely.
toes in and they
Yeah.
want to know like what's happening right now. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Definitely.
feel
We'll
like
put the
I've
link.
like done a marketing degree just by reading all the content that's come through our newsletter. I learned so much by doing it. So
That makes so much sense. Yes. Yeah. We'll definitely put the link in the show notes, and
Yes.
Kate and I will be signing up, and we would
Yeah.
encourage everybody else to as well. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, Charlotte, this has been so much fun catching up. I anticipate that we're going to do another episode in 2 years. It's going to blow Kate's mind
It's gonna
again.
blow my mind again. Yep.
Yeah.
But it's such a pleasure to watch your career journey, and we're so appreciative that you're willing to share it with us and with everybody watching and listening. So thank you.
Yeah, I really like being a resource because I know how valuable it was to me when I was first starting out to see people that were a little bit farther ahead and like get advice and ideas and see what they were up to. So I think now it's like really important to me to be that person for other people that are just getting started. So yeah.
I love that. And you
Yeah.
absolutely are.
Yeah.
So we very much appreciate it. So with that, we will catch you all in the next episode. Bye, everybody. Like what you heard? Hit subscribe so you never miss a video. And if you're ready to take the first step toward becoming a copywriter yourself, sign up for a free video training right here.